Hello, 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 hello. How are we doing tonight? Who's here? Who's spying on me tonight? It's Vincy Lou. That's who. That didn't come out right, did it, honey? How are you, darling? I told Nina to take the night off, but she ain't gonna do it. She'll be here. Crazy woman. And yes, I have a jacket on. Air conditioning freezes me to death, and it's only like it's 72 now outside, and we got the air conditioner on in here, and I'm just cold. Thank you very much. I don't do well with air conditioning except at night. She's fine. She's just grumpy. Grumpy ass. Maybe It's a woman's prerogative to be grumpy. Yeah, it's a woman's prerogative. Grumpy, grumpy, grumpy. Excuse me. Whew. It's Neener Beaner. Told you to rest. Grumpy butt. Grumpy butt. I was just telling Vincy, she's just grumpy. It's a woman's prerogative to be grumpy in life. Shut up! Don't talk about it, or I will again. I made my nose itch. At least my eyes aren't watering tonight. Watering. Try me and see. Try me and see if I would, because I don't know if I would or not. Oh. Who mentioned my eyes? Whew. I turned the light on tonight. It's so cloudy outside. Oh, girls. Don't feed her that line. She won't rest when she needs to if you do. Tracy, are you on here, darling? Are you able to get on? See? Whatever. Still say, try me and see if I would miss you. What is that dumb turd head doing now? All right, ladies, you about ready to get started? Nina, you might want to message Tracy and see if she's able to even get on. You know the routine. It could be her. There's a third person on here, and it could be her, and she just not know it. Yeah. I'm like the nosiest person since I've been at home. It's awful. It's awful, I tell you. We got 4 people on here tonight. Whoop, whoop. Where's Jackie? Jackie's working too much. Is Jody going to make it tonight, I wonder? Alrighty, let's go ahead and get started. It's 8:05. This book is a short book. I think I read that it was only 58 pages long. Let me show you. I read Tracy's book before back in the fall. If you guys remember, The Civil Warrior. I read that back in the fall, and so this is a completely different spin on her books. This is a paranormal romance, so this should be good. I was looking also, and she's written quite a few books I didn't know about. But this one's called Death's Desire, and it's about a pirate, I believe, and a siren. Some mermaids. So let's see what we can come up with here. Death's Desire. The Before. When other children were throwing rocks and chasing dogs, I made life and death decisions. The doctor didn't know what was wrong. They couldn't heal her. Her brittle bones wouldn't mend. They protruded from her decaying flesh at odd angles. She screamed night and day. Whenever the effects of the I always have a hard word with the laudanum wore off. I grew accustomed to the whispers, the predictions of how long she would linger. Sometimes we did not eat. They forgot to feed us, my brothers and me. They stopped watching us or caring about us or noticing us at all. These were our relatives, father's brother and his wife. They came to help mother through her illness, but instead helped themselves to everything. First, the silver and the china went missing. Things were supposedly sold to pay the debtors, yet the debtors kept coming. Harrison was 11. He would scrounge or steal food and make sure we bathed if we avoided water too long. 9-year-old Richard was angry at the adults who could not save her, and later furious with me for killing her, our mother. Harrison was angry too, but not only about that. He was more constructively tormented than our little brother, spreading his ire across Padre and our uncles. I didn't remember Padre. We had been told Leopold was a sailor. I supposed it was true. Most men without titles, lands, or trade became sailors. My brothers may, but I couldn't recall his face, or even if he was our father. Harrison, Richard, and I may have had multiple fathers between us. I remember an uncle or two spending time with mother before her illness. Lots of people had come to Madre back then. She knew herbs and remedies and ways to comfort the very ill, but the uncles came more often when Padre was away. They brought us sweets and toys, but paid little attention to us boys. As mother's illness progressed, I stopped waiting for Leopold, my supposed father, to return. He couldn't help her. The doctors couldn't help her. Only me. I was chosen to help her. She wasn't screaming on that cold, rainy night. Her low moans of misery were almost hidden beneath the peals of thunder. Her absolute surrender to agony woke me and drew me to her room. Death wanted her, but its mercy was still out of reach. Madre, Baldassar, help me. It wasn't her voice. Her voice was almost dry and cracked and pained. Baldassar, help me. Yeah. It hurt her to talk. This voice was clear, calm, hopeful. Madre, do you need medicine? I need peace, Baldassar. I added a log to her fire. Wood, like everything else we owned, was becoming sparse, but given her own last piece seemed right. Giving her one last piece seemed right, even if it was wasteful. I returned to her bedside, filled her glass with water, and stirred in a spoonful of laudanum. Do you know what your name means? I shook my head no. This was the most coherent she'd been in weeks. I was mesmerized, drawn to the sweetness of her breath. Okay. Tell her if she needs to comment to me about something, she's welcome to message me so that if there's something I need to correct while reading, my phone's sitting right here. So if she needs me, just tell her to let me know. Baal, protect the king. Baal, husband, Lord, master, God. I had been named for Baal. What king should I protect? You will know when you meet him. Perhaps you will know when you meet him. Perhaps soon. I added a second spoonful of the white powder to her glass. I didn't know why. I did know why. I didn't know if Madre was aware, but there was a presence in the room with us, a peaceful presence. Death had come and was guiding my actions. After I mixed in a third spoonful of how do you say that? Why am I not saying it right? And it's like I know the word. I hate it when I do this stuff. Thank you, Nina. Laudanum, laudanum, laudanum. Drink, Madre. It will help you rest. It hurts. I want to rest. I want to rest forever and not wake up. I was there. I heard her. I had already thought the same. Si, Madre, you will sleep. She looked at me. She saw me clearly, without confusion. Grazie. I held the glass as she drank. She drank without stopping until it was gone. Grazie. Rest, Madre. I leaned in and she kissed my forehead. Si. It did not take long, but it felt like an eternity. In her sleep, her breathing became shallow and uneven. Overcome by a surge of impatience, I reached for a discarded pillow, kissed her cheek, and covered her face. Her breathing finally stopped. Her beauty returned. The grimace left her cheeks. The haunted expression saw no more ghost. She had nothing left to desire. A glimmer caught my attention. Her necklace. In all my life, I had never seen her without it. Perhaps it was a gift from a real uncle. Maybe Padre sent it to her years before. I didn't know what. Before her illness, before he became lost or forgot us, before he lived in misery. I took the necklace as a memento. Not that I needed anything to remember her. Her face will be the last I see in this life. Her name will be the last I utter. The stone felt warm and sparkled when I touched it. Later, I learned it was a charoite, a rare violet stone with swirls of white and onyx. No one knew where it came from, but the fortunes I had been offered for it were ridiculous. The lives I'd taken because of it are too numerous to recount. When Madre was peaceful and completely at her rest, I saw him, not with my eyes, with my being. He was pleased with me. I could tell. I bowed once to my king and left the chamber. In my in my own room, the nursery I shared with my brothers, I made it to my bed before Harrison said, Madre is quiet. Madre is quiet. She is. Do you know why? Madre is dead. We heard Richardson take a breath, but he said nothing. How do you know? I am named for Baal. Baal. What? I killed her. Richard began to cry. You were not named for Baal, he said. You are Baal. And you will not tell anybody. Harrison turned over. A peal of thunder shook the house. It was the same 14 years later. Harrison remained protective. By protective, I mean controlling. What I was worked what I was worked for his benefit. What I was worked for his benefit. He kept his enemies close and me closer. Richard remained angry. By angry, I mean angry. According to his reckoning, I robbed him of a happy family and fond childhood memories, not our conniving relatives, not Padre's absence. Why didn't you guys tell me I'm just like, my head's just showing? Not Padre's absence, not Madre's illness, me. Through it all, I served my purpose. Richard had left, but he came back. He needed us. No, he needed revenge. He just happened to have the right brothers for the undertaking. He himself had always been more noble than not, just as Harrison had always been more adventurous than not. I'd never had the desire to be more of anything. We took up his cause to repay the conquest for her deeds. Dastardly by some standards, searching the seas for months on end, in the in between days, we plundered every ship we came across. It wasn't as if Richard's revenge was going to make anyone wealthy. Wealth mattered to some people. And the Witch's Island. I'd sensed the evil knots before we reached the shore. 'Twas why I had been eager to go. I could have told them taking the treasure was the worst idea ever, but I am fond of worst ideas. I didn't remember who had been first to fist the coins, first to clasp the curse, but I was the first to feel the rush of nefariousness as it attached itself to me. I was first to walk away, making room for the others to participate. I tried to stay out of destiny's way, but sometimes. Chapter 1. The muttering had begun. Yuso? Is that pronounced with a J or Y? Juso, Richard's valet, fell into muttering when his patience ebbed itself away. Yet, what option did he have? Not carrying out Richard's orders could get him killed, but disturbing me when I was at the lady's breast made death a certainty. Belladonna, the figurehead on Richard's ship, the Redemption, was a full-bodied mermaid with perfect breast. I came here to watch the ocean and dream about breast. I'd seen too much of one and not enough of the other. I didn't fondle them or myself, but I looked. No one disturbed me when I was at the lady's breast. Even the seagulls would keep to the stern until I was done. Cedric had disturbed me once, a long time ago. Cedric fed the sharks. Richard pissed a fit. Rightly so. It was the captain's duty to piss anything he liked. After years apart, Harris and I were sailing with Richard as was our brotherly duty. Wreaking havoc on one another's lives was also a brotherly duty. Ridiculous. My day belongs to anybody who wants to waste it. I have to be hungry. Wait a minute. Oh. Ridiculous. My day belongs to anybody who wants to waste it. I have to be hungry. We're all hungry, Juso. Dismissing the dawn, I spoke my first words of the day. We're all hungry, Juso. Dismissing the dawn, I spoke my first words of the day. He now had permission to address me. I've been standing here 9 an hour waiting to give you a message, Baldassar. Juso came forward but stopped beyond my reach. And it is? Captain Richard would speak with you sooner rather than later. Your brothers are at an impasse. Harrison believes he has your sentiment, but the captain would hear you hear from you himself. I step closer lest he think he's safe. In essence, I am the tiebreaker again. Aye, you are, sir. Wisely, Jusa did not move. No matter. I'd promised Richard I would not kill any more of the crewmen unless it was necessary. Every man on the Redemption was suffering our fate. The hunger and loneliness were punishment enough. Besides, I liked Juso. He was old and grumpy, a memory of all things comfortable. The breeze tugged on my bandana, forcing me to tighten it on my way to the captain's quarters. The Redemption once belonged to the throne of England. Now it was the terror of the Tyrrhenian and Mediterranean seas and pride of the Carbis family. More aptly put, Richard's pride. I suggested he change the name. We're not getting redeemed. The double-mast schooner was agile, formidable, and kept impeccably clean. No hand was idle, ever. Both Harrison and Richard had an eye for detail and tempers roused by laziness. No one wanted to be center of either of their focus. My brothers were waiting for me, so alike. Harrison and Richard both had more muscle than me, but I claimed speed, although not by much in either case. My hair was darker as was my heart. We were dark people. Harrison stiffened when I entered. His subconscious movement was a reaction to my unpredictability. No telling when he may have to save someone. Very responsible, that one. Richard and I were at equal height, and Harrison was less than a half-inch taller. As adults, we were evenly matched and did not fight amongst ourselves over much. We had the entire world to conquer and no time for pettiness or rivalries. Richard's quarters were like Richard, conflicted and confrontational, full of trinkets, rum, and the finest of our plunder, but not the treasure. None of us could abide the sight of our bane, the stolen, worthless treasure that kept us hungry and unsatisfied. They hovered over a map. Harrison's fingers floated somewhere south of our current location. Aye, for warmer waters. About time. Richard didn't bother looking up. He knew it was me when the door opened without a knock. Baldassar, yes, here. Harrison tapped the page. Warmth, winches, days of peace. Richard said, there are no days of peace. No, Harrison's enthusiasm remained even, but we can pretend. We can drink and whore until we get sick of ourselves. Precisely what will happen. Richard's lack of enthusiasm remained even as well. And I'm here because I care not where we went or what this month's thievery would hold for us. I was not my brother's. Harrison, ruthless but responsible by right of his birth, has always protected us. He protected me when I'd killed Madre, God rest her soul. Richard shouldered a burden for our fate, although we'd all participated. Truth be told, claiming the treasure had been Harrison's idea. But Harrison did not carry unnecessary burdens. Harrison didn't carry necessary burdens if he could manage it. Harrison, the optimistic, opportunistic hellion, hell-bent on his belief that if there was a silver lining, we should steal it. I've given the order to burn the village, the boats, the supplies. To this day, I was neither brave nor daring. I did not seek pleasure or revenge. I was not hoping to forget or be forgiven. No grazie. I served but one purpose. It required no ambition or regret. I was death. You are here, Harrison said, to help me convince Richard to set sail for Morocco. The buxom lovelies. The buxom lovelies. He squeezed an imaginary ass. Richard made a face. I don't want a wench. I want the conquest and bread. Is that why I'm here, to bring you bread? My folded arms and head tilt were intentional. He cocked an eyebrow at me, knowing I understood his point. Bread we had, but it did us no good. In reality, the want of food had smothered almost every other desire. I understood Harrison's point too. We must try, we must cling to the strongest distraction we have. Otherwise, we are lost. We plundered harder than most while Richard searched for his redemption and Harrison dreamed of soft lips and warm thighs. Clang! The bell. As one we turned toward the sound, a ship had been sighted. When we arrived on deck, Juso had already taken the report. We stood side by side, listening. English. Taking on water and listening to port. He handed Richard his telescope. Merchant. Oh, English. Taking on water and listening to port. I forgot what I had Juso's. You like the hand motions? Well, when they're in there, I'll try to put them in there. I forgot whose voice was what. English, taking on water and listening to port. He handed Richard his telescope. Merchant. Richard adjusted the tube to his liking. Appears so. No gunners. She seems to be heading toward that island. Is small, not mapped. Winds. Favorable. Richard glanced at Harrison, who responded with a grin. They both looked at me. By all means, to the rescue. Richard's nod was a jolt of lightning, energizing the air around us. In minutes, all hands were in motion, preparing to man their stations. Harrison directed from below, overseeing the artillery. The schooner had 6 cannons. Richard took the helm. Sergi, the quartermaster, stood a few paces behind, waiting to take the wheel once we overtook the lame vessel. I was considered the man of arms. I had led the vanguard, 10 of the most reckless men to ever waste air. We waited beside Belladonna with her perfect breast. This was my bread, my distraction. My breaths were slow and deep. How many are going to die? The wind picked up. It wanted us to catch up. The merchant vessel saw us but was already too wounded to respond. When we reached striking distance, Richard called for the colors to be hoisted. Purple nightshade on a field of black. Beautiful. Deadly. We are. There weren't any clouds of note, but the sky grew heavy with a darkness you couldn't see. I was attuned to this type of darkness. It was glorious. Then I heard it. What was it? It's death calling me. It washed over me, covered me like a lover. It brought me release, pleasure. I wanted it. I wanted more. I was full of desire, but I was not hungry, not for food. Oh, that sound. I felt it. It made me. It gave me. The ship lurched. We'd hit something. I didn't care. I did care. I needed to get closer to that sound. I needed. Richard left the wheel. I only realized this when he appeared beside me. He felt it. I could tell. He wanted it too. Harrison, others, they were there, crowding me. Jealousy hit me, but I had no room to dwell. We were getting closer. The pleasure, the death, the rapture was coming to me, stronger with every knot we drew closer. Wanting, waiting, wanting. The song was sweet. Boom! The crash, the jolt, the scraping and screaming and slashing, an unnatural wave. The chaotic combination broke the connection. I shook my head free of the confusion. Others did the same. Something magic was had ensnared us. Halt! Richard rushed back to the helm. I followed. Harrison joined us en route. Retreat! Retreat! Boom! Splash! Splash! Men jumped overboard. The other ship tilted, and the song was back. Sirens! Someone screamed. We yelled. We stomped. We beat our swords and banged against the railing. We covered our ears, everything to drown out the noise. Retreat! Retreat! Richard yelled. There was another jolt and a loud tear on the starboard side. The water receded and rocks grew up around us. Waves churned, pulling the Redemption to dangerous levels. On the other boat, someone must have given the order to abandon ship. Amid the screams and noise, she capsized. The splash rocked the Redemption, perhaps trying to prove there was no redemption. A large piece of flying debris struck Belladonna. Her head broke free. Her breasts were no longer perfect. Boom! Another jerk, and I was airborne. I sucked in as much air as I could and tried to verticalize myself. Water, not rock. Water, not rock. My mind replayed the phrase as I felt I was engulfed by the cold, dark, deadly deep. Stretched out seconds later, my head broke the surface. I breathed and searched. Men were everywhere. Some swimming, some floating, some bleeding. It wouldn't be long before the sharks arrived. There were rocks, lots of rocks. I didn't know how I missed hitting one, but the gods did not want me yet. However, they did want something or someone. I figured I had to make somebody jerk. Chapter 2. Our ship was behind me, but I couldn't chance it. I swam past the jagged rocks and aimed for the largest boulder I saw. A man I didn't recognize emerged on the stone ahead of me. A second unknown man followed. It made me grateful my sword and dagger remained in their sheaths. We were silent, catching our breath and watching the destruction. The merchant ship would not rise again. Having served its purpose, the singing stopped. The attraction was gone, replaced by the terror and screams of the dying. The sharks were ravenous. The Redemption was in trouble, but without the song, those remaining on board had a chance. A chance for what? I didn't know. If they sailed away, the ship would fail and they would drown. If they came closer, the rocks would finish them and they would drown. Staying where they were would leave them at the sirens' mercy. Sirens had no mercy. You're so goofy. Look, the man beside me pointed. On the shore, 3 women observed their handiwork. Almost a quarter of a knot separated us from their ledge, but I could see they were beautiful, all 3. Flowing locks of different shades framed their faces, and they were happily interested in the sight before them. The bitches! As if they heard my thoughts, I felt their attention, saw them pointing at us. A petite thing with dark hair stepped out of her chemise, tormenting the dying sailors with her uncovered flesh. Bold and graceful, she dove from her perch and cut through the water as if she had been created there. Ahoy! We turned to the ocean and saw a small boat carrying 6 waterlogged sailors. Harrison stood at the bow, his foot propped up on the... Ahoy! We turned to the ocean and saw a small boat carrying 6 waterlogged sailors. Harrison stood at the bow, his foot propped up on the breast hook, waving to get our attention. Richard was also standing, but on the quarter knee. My brothers were searching for me. I had not considered either of their fates before now. Richard was wet. I assumed he was fished from the sea. Both of you. Harrison confirmed my suspicion. He was out of the Redemption only to find his siblings. That's our boat. One of the rock companions shared the necessary information. So it is, Harrison said. Where are our mates? Waiting for you. The fellow nodded as if he believed Harrison meant they were on our ship. More than likely, the missing mates came to the Redemption for assistance. Harrison, God's helper that he is, no doubt, assisted them in gaining their lasting rest. Who are you? A feminine voice spoke. With a new surprise return, the bear-skinned lovely stood on our rock. She was truly a distraction. Neither ships nor sharks nor drowning men could make me turn away. Never had I looked upon a woman whose only hair was on her head. She must have been in possession of both time and agility to create such perfection. 'Twas no wonder she showed it off. Her hair, glistening with water, was dark as a starless night. Her eyes an abyss I wanted to fall in. Her breast flawless like my belladonna's, and real. I would fondle those breasts for hours, fondle and kiss and worship. She was dark fire, pure heat, that place no one could touch. But for all her unclothed glory, this siren was not here for fondling. What was she here for? I could think of one thing. Taking 2 steps, I released my dagger and I sliced the throat of the man closest to me. He was the larger one who talked too much, in my humble opinion. He fell, clutching his throat, gagging, bleeding, and dying thoughtfully quick. I had a love hate relationship with long deaths. While I pondered killing the rest of them, every one of these bastards staring at my breast. I wanted them so they belonged to me. The second man jumped back. His eyes darted from his fallen comrade to my dagger to me. The siren's eyes grew wide, but she said nothing and looked only at me. Good. The others were silent as well, but not because they were surprised. If today is any indication, you crave sacrifices. I bowed to the siren. Will one suffice? She took her time responding. When she did, it was with a half suppressed smile. For now, follow. She returned to the water, and moments later the sun lit up the iridescent colors of her magnificent tail fin. It was my first experience with a siren. 'Twas no wonder men were happy to die for them. I kicked the corpse off the rock to distract any nearby sharks and got into the boat. We waited for the final man. He hesitated. You are granting me safe passage? Of course, Richard said. When he was seated beside me, Harrison took his foot down from the breasthook. She said, for now, obviously you're going to come in handy. Chapter 3. Hey, Raven. Shade trees and white sand, the island was a paradise, probably the gateway to hell. The siren's legs returned when she stepped from sea to shore. The other 2 females were there, a soft-looking chestnut spiraled hair beauty with eyes unlike any I had ever seen, offered her captor her cami. I don't know how to say that word. How do you say that word? Shami? I read it all the time, but I don't know what it is, but I don't know that I've ever used the word. Shamaz. Shamus. Shamus. Shamis. Shamis. She appeared golden and fragile, which made me think she could snap my neck with little effort. My eyes moved back to my goddess. I followed her movements as she shook the water from her obsidian hair and covered those perfect breasts. Shame. The third one was a raven-haired minx. As young as they were, I suppose one must be the eldest, the leader. Her protective stance and dangerous aura pegged her. It was easy to study her because she wasn't watching me. Richard was to my right. He and 2 others. One of them was going to be Lucky, or Emil, or possibly both. My eyes drifted back to my bold, beautiful captor. She was still watching me, only now I must resemble last night's dinner left over. Apparently, she did not appreciate me appreciating her sisters. They talked among themselves. We let them. There were 8 of us. We could have overtaken them. I didn't think we wanted to. I knew I didn't. Orca will decide your fate. You and you go with Gianna, the mink said. The porcelain doll walked away. Harrison and Juso followed. You, and you come with me. Richard and my rockmate followed the minks in the opposite direction from Gianna. Lagging a bit, I got as close as I dared to the dangerous one. I made that kill for you. We weren't 10 paces out when she called, Halt, Agatha. I want this one. You, she said to Sergi. Go with her. I wondered what my punishment would be, but I knew better than to smile. I didn't know where the others were, but Tristan, Raoul, and I were taken to a pen. It wasn't large or particularly comfortable, but a small cave with bars that appeared to have been salvaged from some long forgotten ship. I imagine lots of things from long forgotten ships were hoarded in these caves. Tristan and Raoul belonged to my vanguard, deadly fighters and trustworthy men. That was if you consider men who plundered to be trustworthy. I knew enough about them to anticipate what was coming. Tristan was claustrophobic. He hesitated at the cave's entrance and turned on the siren. I drew my sword and turned on him. We all must die sooner or later. Your choice. Raoul went into the cave without a backward glance. He had called me unpredictable on more than one occasion. Baldassar, I can't go in there, Tristan said. You can and you will. I nudged him with my sword tip. It was low, almost inaudible. I felt it before I heard it, snaking its way around my heart. My sword arm went limp. Tristan didn't notice. He too was captured by the siren's magic. Raoul came forward and chanted, called by the temptress. The bitch! I didn't understand what she was doing, but I didn't want her to stop. All too soon, she did stop. I was sure we looked as stupid as we felt. Get in the pen. Her words were cold, but her eyes were black magic. My member stiffened, not for the first time since I'd seen her. She noticed. There are 7 deadly sins, she said. I can sing and make you guilty of all of them. She locked the cage behind us. Wait, Raoul called before she moved away. He didn't have anything to say. He just didn't want her to leave. She paused. Who built this? He touched the bars. While he talked, I committed her to memory. I wanted a detailed image when I pampered my erection. You were not the first man to make landfall. She spoke as if he was impertinent for asking. Tristan knelt, pressing his face against the bars, taking deep breaths. There are other men here? Not any longer. She thought a minute, then said to me, Perhaps you'll be next. Then I best get busy. I nodded my head once in the direction of my crotch. Her exquisite bottom lip drooped open. It quivered like she had something naughty to say. She came very close to me, reached out to touch me, only she didn't. Damn, I wanted her to touch me. Her fingers were a wisp away from cupping my groin. Oh, please. I can sing all 7 sins. This time, she did not look back. Chapter 4. This will be the last chapter, guys. We were in that. When you're reading this on your own, it should take you right at an hour to read it. But because I do voices and struggle with words and stuff, it takes me a little bit longer. So I think there's only 12 chapters in here, so it's not bad. We were in that hole for hours, giving nothing to eat and only a sparse cup full of water to drink. The eating was pointless anyway. 'Twould not make us full. We were already starving to death on whatever comes next. The sun had barely set, but it seemed later in my mind. Boredom lulled my cellmates to sleep. Tristan still sat beside the gate, lest the spaces between the bars fill in and cut off his air. Raoul retreated to the farthest, warmest corner. I sat against the opposite wall between them. 'Twould be no movement or conversation beyond my knowledge. When the darkness took my mind, I welcomed it. I let it restore and energize me. The cave faded, and I wondered if we had been poisoned. Maybe just me. I found myself in a throne room. I'd never graced a throne room before. The floor was made of onyx or obsidian or some dark marble with a black water pool in the center. The smooth stone walls and the fanged stalactites glittered with minerals. Yet, for its dark dampness and absence of life, it was grand. Something sat on the throne. I couldn't see him, her, or it clearly. It hadn't fully formed beyond a shadow and a presence. 1,000 voices rang in my ears. Its features belonged to every creature I knew, and some I didn't. The thing expanded and contorted, forming itself into something I could bear. I bowed. You will speak of this visit to no one, not even Veronica. A woman. The deity chose the form of a woman, an amazingly beautiful woman, created from lust, probably mine. Plus, she gave me Veronica's name. I liked her already. I give you my word, Orcus. Orcus, Nox, I am known by many names. Does your word have value? She didn't make eye contact, as if it was too insignificant to notice, or maybe she watched things I couldn't see. Not much. I kept my position humble, but that doesn't make me a liar. Knox. May I call you Knox? I amused her. Rise. I did as bidden and dared to assess her more openly. I may be down, but there was no saying no to that. What do you desire, Baldassar? Pardon? It was difficult to not stare at her bosom. Holding one required both hands. He's such a titty baby. You are unlike the others. Peeling my eyes away from those luscious moons, I ask, different how? I am but a man, eager to serve you. Keen, in fact. Serve? In a flash, I was on the beach. I looked about, collecting my bearings. I saw them. 4 men launching the rowboat, escaping, I assumed. The redemption was not far offshore. Was I supposed to serve her by going after them? I was barely dry from my earlier swim. What the hell? I kicked off my boots and dived in. I swam, called out, was spotted, and the fools came back and heaved me in. Thank you, friends. I didn't recognize them. They must have survived the merchant vessel. Do you know anything about that ship there? The one guessed to be the leader. I know the captain. Do you know anything about this island? No, we've stayed hidden. We watched those sirens take men captive. Got no intention of being eaten. You think they want to eat us? I imagine that Spitfire siren nibbling on me. I imagine all 3 of them nibbling on me. Did you see them? A man sitting across from me asked. One of them stripped, naked as the day she was, but I grabbed his throat and tossed him overboard. I flung my dagger at the sailor next to him, piercing him in the heart. Moving with the boat's motion, I used my sword to slash the leader and hold the man paddling at bay. We helped you! He held the paddle like a club. I slashed the leader again and pushed him overboard. Still balancing against the ropes, rocking and tipping, I ducked the paddle, grabbed my dagger, and shoved the bleeding sailor on top of the man trying to climb back in. I stabbed my attacker first in the leg, then in the gut. Then I waited. It didn't take long. The uninjured man pitched the bow. I threw myself against his weight, grabbed his hand, and cut it off. In the still of the night, I stared across the water with a bloodied weapon in each hand. The moon was full and bright, the ship was close, and the land not far away. The sirens, the sailors, my brothers, somebody besides the sea witch was watching me. No sooner had I returned to shore and put my boots on, Nox pulled me back into her lair and rewarded me with a drink. It was warm, red gold liquid I couldn't identify, but one sip filled and refreshed me. My strength returned immediately. For once, the hunger within me quieted. Grazie. I drank it down. Grazie. She spoke as if our conversation had not been interrupted. You are different. Your company carries a curse. The others despise their shame, but not you. You share the curse, but you do not suffer as they do. If she wasn't going to acknowledge my escapade, neither was I. We stole from a witch. It was expected. I expected it. So little in the world works. I tend to appreciate things that do what they should, even curses. You do not want to be free of it? She moved her head from side to side, studying things beyond me. I try not to want anything. You want her. I didn't pretend. That remains to be seen. I have seen it. I am grateful for the news. You wish to serve me? Serve. What new manner of service shall I give you? If she could keep my curse at bay, I'd do just about anything. What of your own trespass? I didn't give it much thought at all. Allowing us to live seems unlikely. Permanent imprisonment is a waste of your resources. That being the case, I would kill my brothers first. She jerked. Her distracted gaze settled on me. You do not beg for your life? You do not plead for theirs? I shook my head. My brothers are leaders, two of the most capable men you will ever meet. If there is a way to escape, one or both will figure out how. Do sirens eat human flesh? They do. Do you have a feud with your siblings? For my part, no. Why them? Why not yourself or others? I am not capable, nor am I interested in escaping. Murder me at your leisure. I name Harrison and Richard not because they are my brothers. Harrison is useful if given the opportunity. He will have our ship repaired in a matter of days. Richard is the captain. His men are loyal to him. I suggest you rid yourself of them because 'tis the absolute worst possible decision you could make. Her pupilless eyes glowed. Do you make sport of me? I bowed low. I beg your pardon. No, you asked what should be done about our trespass. I told you what I would do. There is darkness upon you. What power has marked you? None that I will speak of. I felt her amusement before. Now I felt her displeasure. Name him. She bared her fangs. I held my silence and tried not to stare. The air became heavy, pressing down on me, not letting me exhale. I bit down, kneeled down, fell down. The blackness came for me. Nox released me. Rise. I did, taking quick, deep breaths. What talisman do you carry? I only understood when I felt the necklace pressed against my heart, getting warm. I pulled it free and watched her recoil. Where did you get that? Whose is it? Her head jerked every which way, searching for the answer. It belonged to my mother. I clutched the sharite stone to protect it. Remove it from my sight. She waved her hand. A moment later, I was in the cave. Raoul hunkered against the far wall, and Tristan leaned against the bars. Both were asleep. I spent the next several hours thinking about my encounter. Real or imagined, I had 3 takeaways. The stone had power. It protected me. The sea bitch, she was definitely a bitch, could not take it. And Veronica, the siren's name was Veronica. Zaddy go! What y'all think? God, air conditioning freezes me. Do y'all like that? Yeah, Raven, it is good so far. We got a bunch of people here tonight. Whoop whoop. So, those that missed the first part, you got to go back and listen. Especially if you didn't hear the loud crackling noise. So, all right, Death's Desire, Tracy Ball, 99 cents on Amazon. Like I said, it'll only take you about an hour to read it, because I'm reading it out loud. Reading out loud is slower than reading to yourself, because reading out loud, I tend to stumble over words. So go get it, read it, and then come back here tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, we've got Juniper Sight by Rowan Thalia. Thalia? That should be a good one too. So, all right, boys and girls, it's time to go to bed now. Tomorrow's another work day for most of us. So, y'all be good and have a good night and happy reading.